At a certain point in life, many of us tend to come to a roadblock, not knowing what we'd want to do with our lives and are unsure about our future. This leads us to search for what we think may be our meaning or purpose. Sometimes we get lucky and find a conclusion based on our own observations and experiences, and sometimes we feel that we already know, while other times we still have to wait a while to find that meaning or purpose, or wait until it finds us. Viktor Frankl wrote a well-known book called Man's Search for Meaning, about his struggles during his time in Auschwitz, and how he realized that some of those who survived were mentally and psychologically strong, while others were not. Logotherapy, a type of counseling method that was created by Frankl as a result of his experiences, is a precursor to the field of positive psychology. The theory is founded on the belief that human nature is motivated by the search for a life purpose. Logotherapy is the pursuit of that meaning for one's life. Meaning is also what the M stands for in Martin Seligman's theory of PERMA, the 5 elements that make up a good life: authentic and sustained happiness and well-being. Meaning is defined in this positive psychology acronym as belonging to and serving something bigger than oneself. There have been many characters in fiction who have looked for their purpose, one of the most popular of which is the character Mewtwo. From the films Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, and the sequel Mewtwo Returns. The real Mewtwo, not that other rip-off one. Mewtwo was created by scientists to be a more powerful clone of the ever-elusive Mew. When first created, it has an ethereal form, as its physical form is not fully active yet. It's also one of the most cheek-pinchingly adorable baby Pokemon to ever exist. During this time, it meets the ethereal forms of other clones that the scientists are working on: Charmander 2, Squirtle 2, Bulbasaur 2, and the human clone Amber 2. Amber 2 is the clone of the late daughter of lead scientist Dr. Fuji. Amber's passing was Fuji's main reason to begin the cloning program. Eventually, all the clone projects other than Mewtwo are unsuccessful and die out, which makes baby Mewtwo very upset. It's okay, Mewtwo, you make up for most of it later, but it looks like you forgot one. Later on, Mewtwo seemingly loses this memory after being created, containing few thoughts and little emotion. It kills those that created it. Yeah, Pokemon ain't so kid-friendly now, huh? In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl, being a Holocaust survivor, talks about suffering and different ways that humans, specifically prisoners, deal with it. Frankl repeatedly used the phrase, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When it first escapes, Mewtwo does not have any why to live for, and instead questions why it exists at all, being allowed to have so much raw destructive power. This is until Giovanni tells it that he can help it learn to control its powers, and that eventually it will find a purpose. Mewtwo also gets sweet robo armor. For a while, Mewtwo's only why to live for is to learn how to control its powers, until it's powerful enough to escape on its own, not being satisfied with this purpose. In regards to negative experiences and suffering, Frankl says, one can make victory of those experiences, turning life into an inner triumph, or one can ignore the challenge and simply vegetate. You can either be put into a tough situation and give up, or you can power through it and possibly come out better than you were before. When first created, Mewtwo obviously did not take what Frankl said to heart, and chose to mostly forget about the trauma he went through, even if there were a few good memories mixed in. Fast forward to Pokemon the first movie. No, not that part, fast forward a little more. Mewtwo believes that its only purpose is to be both the strongest Pokemon and Pokemon trainer, creating its own army of clone Pokemon, believing that they are superior to the originals. The army of clones fight the original Pokemon while Mewtwo fights Mew. Eventually, Ash decides he has to prevent the fighting somehow, and gets in between the fighting legendaries, then dies for a little while. But don't worry,
just a flesh wound.
He gets revived by the power of Pokemon Gears. Believe it or not, this part of the movie actually relates to something that Frankl says in his book. The right example was more effective than word could ever be. The immediate influence of behavior is always more effective than that of words. Ash's selfless action he takes to stop the fighting both confuses and inspires Mewtwo to state that it does not matter who is more powerful, that the clones and original Pokemon both have value as living beings, and also says this now relatively well-known quote.
I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life. that determines who you are.
Mewtwo also says that it would be best if no one knew about what happened. When Mewtwo flies off, it tells Ash that it will find a place where it and the clones can live in peace. As a result, Mewtwo erases memories of the event from all of the trainers, but this still didn't prevent the sequel. In the direct sequel, Mewtwo Returns, Mewtwo, now voiced by the King of Games,
Well, that's one way to put it.
had found an area in the Johto region that is near impossible to reach for humans. Mewtwo decides that this isolated area is the best place for it and the other clones to live, since Mewtwo feels that they do not belong in the outside world. Mewtwo's new purpose is to be the protector of the Pokemon and their new home. After the events of the movie, including a second encounter with Ash and a long battle against Giovanni and his army of Team Rocket goons, Mewtwo uses its immense power to move the habitat inside of the mountain it's located on. When Mewtwo decides to erase the memories of all those involved, Meowth and the other Pokemon disagree, arguing that the past forms part of a living creature's identity, and it is entitled to it. Misty and Brock add that forgetting the past does not change it, and everyone deserves to know where they came from. Mewtwo changes his mind, stating that we should be able to look to the past just as much as the future, and the shame of others' wrongdoing is theirs alone. The villains still get their memories erased though, because Giovanni is a jerk. This again connects back to Frankel and a statement used in logotherapy. Instead of possibilities, I have realities in my past. Not only the reality of work done and love loved, but of sufferings bravely suffered. These sufferings are even the things of which I am most proud, though these are things which cannot inspire envy. Ignoring past events in your life is not healthy and can prevent you from improving, meaning that it's better to be aware of past traumas, knowing that you were able to get through them. Knowing this can assist you in future unfortunate events or circumstances. Another character that comes to mind when talking about meaning and purpose is Blackmore Greymon from Digimon Adventure 02. Like Mewtwo, Blackmore Greymon constantly questions his existence and purpose. Originally created by the villain Arukenimon to help defeat the Digidestined and destroy the digital world, this backfires since Blackmore Greymon develops a free will of his own and disobeys his creator. For a while, he goes around fighting or talking to other Digimon, trying to figure out the reason and purpose for his existence. During an encounter with the mindless heart of Mammothmon, he notices a tiny flower about to be crushed by their stampede. Once he notices the flower, he decides to destroy the entire herd. After this event, he starts to question why he protected the flower, and why the flower was considered a living being, but he is not.
What difference does it make if there's one more tiny flower in the world or not?
After pondering for a while, he decides to crush the flower himself. Going back to what was said at the end of Mewtwo Strikes Back about how all living beings matter, the only reason that Blackmore Greymon thinks he isn't truly a living being is because his creator told him so, and he chooses to believe it, and therefore he is confused about his own existence. Speaking of confusing, what is up with this flower? Is it still life if it's a digital flower composed of data rather than organic matter? Or is data technically organic in the digital world? Did Blackmore Greymon end up destroying it because he thought it was another certain digital flower?
Get on with it!
Possibly, but I digress. Eventually, Blackmore Greymon saw Azulongmon, a god among Digimon, and deemed Azulongmon as his worthy opponent, and made it his goal in life to fight him, convinced this was his purpose. Blackmore Greymon attempted to fight Azulongmon once they met, but Azulongmon refused and explained that all things had a purpose in life, but Blackmore Greymon could not get the answers from anyone else. He had to find them on his own. After hearing that, Blackmore Greymon left to find his true purpose. Victor Frankl said something quite similar to Azulongmon, which is, man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. This meaning is unique and specific in that it must and can be fulfilled by him alone. Only then does it achieve a significance which will satisfy his own will to meaning. To reiterate, only a specific individual will be able to find and fulfill their own meaning, and ultimately must search for the answers themselves. It's not that others can't help you, but it's up to you to make your own self-satisfying conclusion. Much later, it took lectures from a few partner Digimon about the importance of life to convince Blackmore Greymon to actually enjoy life's pleasures and talk him out of killing the human villain Oikawa. Blackmore Greymon soon after realized that Myotismon, the powerful villain from Digimon Adventure, was actually controlling Oikawa behind the scenes. Blackmore Greymon used the last of his strength to seal the gate to the digital world to try and prevent Myotismon's return. At this point, he had found the purpose he had searched for all along and sacrificed himself to help save the world he was created in. Going back to the previously mentioned Frankel quote about words and actions, It continues to say, but at times the word was effective too, when mental receptiveness had been intensified by some outer circumstances. It's clear that Blackmore Greymon was inspired by the words of the other Digimon, which led him to making this selfless action. These characters are both great examples of the struggles one may go through while searching for a meaning or purpose, and although there are plenty of other good examples, I think they represent this part of life the best. So I'll end this video with one last Franco quote. Once an individual's search for meaning is successful, it not only renders him happy, but also gives him the capability to cope with suffering. Whether you've found your own meaning or purpose, or have helped others find theirs, the satisfaction that comes as a result is definitely something that can help you nerd positively.